Clara University. Hopefully, in about a year and a half, I will have graduated with my master's in counseling psychology.
And what do you want to do after that?
I'm still, figuring it out, but I do want to work in the mental health field. So, therapist for, low income communities, especially, I have a concentration in Latinx community. So hopefully something around those lines.
Very cool.
That's a good plug for me mentor too. Dino does a lot of helping network in the medical health space, and I've been on the platform mementor.org, and it's awesome to see a lot of med school and mental health professionals on that as well.
Yeah, and in fact,
okay.
Just expanding on that, for anyone that's interested in the medical health profession, whether it's being a doctor, PA, anything along the spectrum, get on the MeMentor platform. And the most important thing is having a number of mentors, people you could reach out to, and more importantly, people that can connect you into companies from day one. That's going to be Myra with the law school thing.
That's it. Thank you, Dino. Raul, you want to kick it off?
Yes, I'm going to just open up like we've opened up all things in prayer. Padre, Hijo, Espíritu Santo. Amen. This week, we celebrate our 20th anniversary. Yesterday we had our Father Mateo luncheon, and, he was our visionary of creating this school. So, in that we kind of honor, something that we gave, and we gave out to all our people for the luncheon yesterday. So it's a prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, as many of us know, but it's something that was one of his favorites. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it's in giving that we receive, and it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it's in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Amen. Go ahead, Jennifer.
So thank you, everybody, for joining. I know there's a couple other people that are coming in and a lot of people that have requested the recording. So I'll make our introductions brief. Cura, in partnership with Sacred Heart Nativity's graduate support program, has come together to really create a community and platform to curate socially conscious leaders and resources to bring to the alumni of the school and like-minded individuals who are ambitious, high potential, and that want those doors opened for them, right? The goal of this is for this generation to open the doors for the next generation and to put you all to work and do the same for the people that follow you. Alejandro is my co-founder in Colombia. We'll talk a little bit more about ourselves and what we're doing when we kick off the boot camp in the second half, but I'm very excited and eager to introduce our speaker for today, Dino Barajas. He is a local from San Jose, Bellarmine graduate, to UCLA, to Harvard Law. It's excited to hear the story about it. Socially conscious leader who is eager and excited to make some introductions for you all. So my only advice is take advantage of the people willing to do that, because it's hard sometimes to find people that really, really care and are genuine about this. And there's nobody that we have met that's more genuine about these introductions. So Dino, I'll hand it over to you.
Really? Well, thank you so much. So just very, very quickly, just to kind of give you the background, because everybody sees, the Dino of today. They'll look me up on our firm's website and see, kind of where I am now, accolades and the like, or find me on LinkedIn. And it's a very different picture from where things started. And in terms of the before and after, the person's the same. That's the one thing that I think is the most important, is don't let life change you unless it changes you for the better. It's very important that you always have a base, appreciate where you came from, and more importantly, appreciate those that got you to where you are. So in terms of my story, I mean, my story began back in Laredo, Texas. I was born there. My mom had already been living in San Jose, had worked at the canneries there. She ended up moving back to San Jose when I was 6 months old. Life started off in someone's dirt basement, and humble beginnings. She has a third grade education, had worked a number of different jobs, including in the fields, picking, and then also in a chicken slaughterhouse, Foster Farms. But we ended up in San Jose, back when San Jose was all orchards. This is back in '68. So very different from the Silicon Valley that we know today. I ended up in a working class neighborhood, fairly poor. Everybody around me was in kind of the same boat. The one point of difference that made a difference, I think, in my life was my mother was always involved in my education. She always saw that as my way out. And I never saw the value of education until much later on. For me, it was just a way of keeping my mom happy and letting her know that I was doing okay, kind of appreciate her sacrifice. I ended up going to Bellarmine. I was one of the scholarship kids. I think at the time, the running joke is I had the most work study of any other student that had ever been there, because I was constantly working. But the fact that I was working so much, was a blessing and a curse. I mean, it was a blessing in the sense that it gave me the opportunity to be at the school, and that platform changed my life, mainly because I saw what was possible. And that's the one thing that I encourage a lot of people to do, is to reach out, find mentors, see what is possible. Because if all you see is your immediate surroundings, I never knew a lawyer, didn't know very many professionals at all. Everybody around me, had something to do in most cases with the canneries that were in San Jose, and my grandparents worked there. My aunts and uncles worked there. And my aspiration was actually to work there, to drive a Jeep. And I thought that was going to be, the big high paying job. So I ended up in Bellarmine. And even at Bellarmine, it was the rich kid school. So I was kind of the odd man out. I didn't think I had a whole lot in common with kind of all the wealthy kids coming down from Atherton, from Palo Alto on the train, living very different lives. I would go back, to our little house, it was a much different world. I would, take the bus to school, and sitting on the Alameda, where Ray Street is, the Alameda. People that I knew at school would drive by in their BMWs and Mercedes, and even though they probably had room in the car, would kind of honk, wave at me, and I'm sitting out there in the rain. But it was what it was, and it's just kind of more fuel for the fire, because I was in the same school as they were. I was sitting right next to some of the richest kids from the richest families, and the important thing is I was sitting next to them. Next step, I ended up going to UCLA, and at UCLA, again, I mean, it's a massive school, easy place to get lost, 40,000 of your new closest friends. My first quarter there, in UCLA is on the quarter system. So everything moves fast and furious, as a number of you all know. But there, the point that changed my life was, I was at a party, free beer. So I'm thinking, hey, let's see where the keg ends. Sitting around with a bunch of friends. And one of them, father was a baker. Another one, father delivered newspapers, but very diverse working class backgrounds. And as we're sitting there partying away, I look around me, and I started thinking about my mother, who was back working in the canneries in San Jose, working, crazy long hours. She used to come home smelling like a stewed tomato, her arms full of slivers from lifting old wooden boxes. She's all of about 5 feet. And I thought, here I am with an opportunity in college. My mother is, back home, sacrificing her life, thinking that she's giving me an opportunity for a better life. And that's all she ever wanted. Sacrifice herself for the betterment of her son. I'm the only child. It was only, her and I always. And I thought, you know what? I'm wasting her sacrifice. And at that moment, and, I would tell her, when I got my grades, because, they weren't the best, thankfully I've never gotten a C in my life, but I got some B minuses and a lot of Bs in that first quarter. And when I went home, she was used to much different grades from Bellarmine because I had done really well there, at least towards the end. I would just simply tell her, look, you don't understand. I'm in college. There's a lot of competition. It's not Bellarmine, even though in some ways my classes at Bellarmine were harder than the classes I was in now in college. But I knew I wasn't telling her the truth. I knew I could have done a lot better and worked a lot harder. And that moment when I was, in that party, I thought, you know what, I got to, turn it up a notch. And that's, given our backgrounds, the one thing that we do have, we have a lot of gears that a lot of other people may not have because, I think a lot of us, it's like the Marines, we're, built from steel. The commercial that they would have where, it's trial by fire and all of a sudden they're, the forged sword and all that, always made an impact. So, great advertising. But I think a lot of it's because of our history, the sacrifices of our grandparents, of our parents, and then those around us that, that are working. I mean, just like you all today, spending time, trying to build a better community for others. All those efforts, should drive us all forward. And in my case, it flipped the switch. From that point on, it was game on. And at that point, classes, it was getting the straight A's. By the time I ended up graduating from UCLA, I was Chancellor's Marshal. I was the outstanding graduating senior, and there were a number of us, but I was the one representing my section of UCLA. I had been outstanding distinguished scholar, which supposedly recognized the top 10 students. I was in the College of Honors, all these wonderful accolades. So, I show up at graduation and I have, 2 sets of honors cords. I'm wearing like some medal that they gave me for outstanding graduating senior. So I look like a rapper, with my big gold medallion. And I see my mother, I'm literally crying. And, that moment, also, kind of solidified that her sacrifices were worth it. All the hopes that she had in her son, had finally materialized. But it wasn't going to stop there. One of the things, that was also important was friends of mine around me. So my mother always said, tell me who you're with and I'll tell you who you are. Making sure that you surround yourself with mentors, making sure that you surround yourself with people that are expecting much more out of themselves than you may expect from you, and they'll drag you along. So in my case, and this is going way back, but I was hanging out with a bunch of Latinas. They were in love with Jimmy Smith's LA Law, was big back then. So it's going way back. And all these Latinas had been watching LA Law because of Jimmy Smith's and had been in love with him. And I had met him once at a scholarship dinner. And I've actually told him the story, in person, but, he met me at a scholarship dinner, that, he was the MC for. I was more interested in the free buffet and the never ending sodas. But the fact that just in terms of, him portraying a lawyer on TV, so make believe, fantasy land, but here Latinas are watching that and thinking that could be me. And this was my party group. So I had seen, them partying like rock stars in Tijuana, and I thought they were going to be teachers. So I show up to their apartment. My girlfriend is living with them at the time, and I see this book, and it's the book to study for the LSAT. I had no idea what the LSAT is, so I thought it was the teacher credential test. And I go, hey, what's this? Become a teacher? And they said, no, pendejo. We're going to be lawyers. And I thought, you guys, I've seen you at your best in Tijuana, dancing up a storm, partying like rock stars. And you guys are going to be lawyers. So then I think, hey, well, if they're going to be lawyers, why can't I be one? Mm-hmm. I then called up my mom, who again, still working at the canneries, and said, hey, look, what would you think about me going to law school? She was ecstatic. She said, of course, mijo, I'll keep working. Don't worry. And all I wanted to do was get a job and have her retire. In her mind, all she wanted to do is see how far her son could go. So, we're operating in two different worlds. So I'm trying to figure out, how do I, give her the life that she deserves. In her mind, she's thinking, how do I give him the life I could never imagine. But she says, you know what? Don't worry about me. I'll hang in there. And I want you to keep going to school. And she really didn't care what I studied. All she wanted to do was keep me in school and have me collect more degrees, because in her mind, the more that I was educated, the better prepared and insulated I was going to be from whatever the world could bring. So I apply. And in terms of having people tell you what your limits are, you have no limits. And it's something that, you may not believe, but you have to internalize. So even in terms of applying to law school, and I thought, hey, I'm getting really good grades. I'm getting all these accolades and the like. So I had no idea what I was going to, end up doing as a senior, because at this point I'm applying as a junior. But I started looking at law school brochures, and I requested fee waivers. I got fee waivers from everyone because, in my mother's best year at the cannery, she made $12,000. All the overtime in the world, that was it. And I used to see her checks, and there were nothing. And that was after, 2 weeks of work and the like. But in any event, when I'm applying to law schools, I'm looking at all these brochures, and everybody's, hey, please apply. We love you. We're all about diversity, yada, yada, yada. So everybody has the same message. So I'm writing away, and I want to change the world. I want to do this and that and the other. And I come to the Harvard Law School brochure. And as I'm looking at the brochure, it doesn't speak to me. It basically says, unless you have these grades, unless you fit this profile, don't bother us, don't apply. You're not going to get in, don't, and as an alumnus now, whoever's watching this from Harvard Law School, hey, thanks for the education. But that brochure that was essentially prepared for mainstream America didn't speak to me, didn't speak to the Latino kid from San Jose with a mother working the canneries. It was, you got to be the best of the best, only apply if you fit this criteria. And I tossed it because I figured, what, they don't want me. I'll never make it in. And then I picked up the brochure that thankfully they had prepared for the minority community. And when I looked at that, it was kind of like, again, the advertising for the Army. Hey, we want you, be the best you can be, this and that and the other. And I looked at that and I thought, hey, maybe they do want me, and maybe I do have a shot. Friends of mine that were going out that night, because we would always go out, Thursday night to the clubs, called me up and, hey, where are you, what are you doing? Let's get together. Or, I'll pick you up at this time. And I lied to them and I said, oh, now I can't get together. I'm actually going to end up, writing a paper, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want to tell them I was going to apply to Harvard, because mainly I didn't want to tell them I didn't get in. So that night I stayed home. I wrote, the essays, I, put the application together. The next morning, Friday morning, I'm hearing, how great the night was, blah, 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 everything I missed. And I'm dropping off, my application, and paying my, $2.79 or whatever the postage was back then. And, I thought, okay, here goes nothing. What the hell? Here's my, my lotto ticket. And That evening I came home and I was, back in my room, and I picked up that first Harvard Law School brochure that didn't speak to me, that basically said, don't apply, you never get in. And I thought, man, what a waste. I just, missed out on a night with my friends and, all the good times they must have had. I just wasted my, $2.79 on the postage. I could have got a muffin or something with that. What a sucker. 3 weeks later, I get the fat envelope. And when you're applying to things and you get that, thin envelope, you know what it means. Thank you for playing. Please use this as wallpaper. And, you just kind of acknowledge, move on. And, it is what it is. And I've gotten a lot of those, throughout my career, but I knew what the fat envelope meant. And I was nervous. I open it up, pull out that first sheet, and all I see is congratulations. And right there and then I knew my life had changed. The moral of the story was, if I would have listened to whomever was writing in terms of, unless you fit in this box, unless you have these scores, unless this and that and the other, my life would have been very different. I would have gone to law school other places because, I got accepted in a number of other schools. But the fact that I was able to walk in to Harvard Law School, and again, just like Bellarmine, looking to my left and the right, and there's a, senator's kid on one side. There was a governor's kid that I went to, school with. I was there when Obama was there. He was a big man on campus. It was life-changing. But again, I'm looking around and I don't belong in my mind. I'm looking around and I'm the penguin and everybody else is something else, so for the 3 years that I was there, I had a very tight-knit group of friends, just like I did at UCLA, just like I did at Bellarmine. They looked like me. They had similar backgrounds to me. Some were from Texas, and some were from Chicago, some were from Miami. A number of us were from California. But the one thing that I saw was that a lot of us had very similar stories, very similar backgrounds. We had all gotten to the same point in life because of who supported us, because of mentors, and most importantly, because somebody, and in some cases it was themselves, believed they could do more than what life had given them. And they had pushed themselves, or people had pushed them to that point. And again, it was opportunity in hand, trying not to waste it. The one thing that really changed my life is I end up, and now as a would-be professional, I end up meeting a woman right before graduation from UCLA, who was attending a reception where I'm being introduced to the alumni from my department. As here's the would-be recipient for the Outstanding Graduate Senior Award. He's Chancellor's Marshal. He's blah, blah, blah. He's been accepted to Harvard Law School. So I'm the show pony, which I was happy to be because I was grateful to my department and everybody that had mentored me from my department. But this woman walks up, hands me a business card and said, look, I went to UCLA. I was in the communication studies just like you. I attended Harvard Law School, just like you're going to attend. I work at this law firm. I had no idea what the law firm was, nor what it meant. But she said, when you're looking for a job during the summer, reach out. I put it in my pocket. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, yeah, thank you, lady. When I was then looking for my job, and everybody was scrambling, the recession, and this is back in 1990, had already hit. There were a number of layoffs on the East Coast. There were going to be a number of layoffs on the West Coast where I was looking to work. But I called her. She got me into the mix. She got me interviewed by the firm, put her name behind me, and that was my first professional job. So I was a summer associate at a large New York-based law firm. And as a summer associate, the first check that I got, I thought I hit the lotto because I was being paid what a first-year attorney would be paid. And I thought, mother of God, this is more money than I've ever seen. I told my mom, she couldn't believe it. But the one thing that really sunk in, and this is later on, once I graduate, my mother shows up to my first office. And, law firms, when you walk in, they're intimidating, a lot of glass, a lot of brass. They're set up that way. So then that way, when you get the bill from your lawyer, you know what you paid for. But we walk in, and she would take the Greyhound back then. She's never driven. So she takes the Greyhound from San Jose down to LA. I pick her up at the Greyhound bus station. It's a Saturday. And we park in our parking lot. It's one of the brand new buildings in Los Angeles. And I'll never forget this, but I'm in, cargo shorts, flip flops, a t-shirt. My mom, is dressed to, be hanging out on her bus ride, for the 12 hours from San Jose, which, later on she would say that was her bus. And my daughter always thought grandma owned all the Greyhound buses. So I thought she was rich because every Greyhound bus, she goes, hey, there goes grandma's bus. But we come up from the parking lot into the lobby, this gorgeous building, marble everywhere. Security walks right up to us. And, I know what they're thinking. We don't belong. Somebody that walked off the street, these Latinos are lost. I have my security badge with my little photo on it. So as they're approaching, I pull it out, flash it, and my mom never sees this. She saw them walking up and says, hey, Mijo, I don't think we're supposed to be here. And I go, no, I think we're okay. Don't worry. They walk away. Oh, so sorry. Didn't know, you were, with the building. We go up, this really nice elevator up on the 30th floor. Doors open up again, glass and brass everywhere. And the, one thing I could see in my mom's eyes is, where are we? I mean, this is like Oz. This is fantasy land. We walk around to my office. My office had this little kind of door guard, or like a nameplate, a glass nameplate, and with my name etched on it. And she just touched it and ran her finger on my name. That moment, I finally realized she's happy. She knows her son has made it. And I don't have to worry about him as much. She'll always worry because she's a mom. But I finally have gotten my son to some place where he's comfortable. That made all my sacrifices worth it. All the late nights that I had put in, things that I had put off doing, nights where my friends were doing funner things, and I was hitting the books, kind of all ended up being rolled up into that moment where I knew my mom was finally happy, finally at peace that her kid had made it. Now in my professional world, it's just like Bellarmine. It's just like Harvard. I walk into rooms sometimes and I'm the only Latino. But I always tell people, and I tell myself, I am the most dangerous person in that room. Never because I think I'm the smartest, but I know I will not give up. You will have to take me out of that, building in a stretcher before I ever tap out. And because of that, and because of the ability to find those gears in me to kick it to the next level, my mentor, when I was working as a summer associate, and I was just trying to get an offer to stay on, and I asked him for his advice. I said, hey, how do I get an offer here? It was my first professional environment. And he said, you have to outwork everybody. He said, if the person next to you is working 8 hours, you work 10. If they're working 10 hours, you work 12. If they're working 12 hours, bring your sleeping bag and tell them it's game on. So again, it's that work ethic. It's, service, sacrifice, push yourself to that, that last, ounce of energy. It's kind of like the athletes. Leave everything on the field, leave everything on the court. When you come out, you better be exhausted. There better not be a breath in you. there better not be an ounce of sweat more that you can give, because you need to know that you gave 120%, and there was nothing more you can give. The people that I mentor, a lot of times I tell them, be careful taking me on as a mentor. I will want more from you than you want from yourself, just like my mother. And I will push you to your limits because I know you don't have limits. More importantly, I will give you the answer key to the maze, mainly because I don't want people to have to go through, find the dead ends, go the wrong way, waste their energy. So what I tell them is, whatever you see as the accolades, and they don't mean anything to anyone except for my mom. Nobody cares, what award I got, this and that and the other. They're all sitting in some box in some storage area somewhere. Or, more recent ones, you put them up in your office, and, people kind of, look at it and, have a little bit of pause because they're like, oh, hey, this guy's done something. So it, keeps people in check, because who do they see when they walk in? That Latino from San Jose, that person that may not belong in their mind. In my mind, hey, you're in my house. You're coming to my court. I own it. This is it. Game, set, match. You want to play? This is your day. And, it's kind of like the crazy Michael Jordan mentality. Everything is a test of what you're made of. Everything, even if you're, already ahead, it's, can I beat myself? Can I push myself to that next level? I've been practicing now close to 29 years. All the experiences that I've had, I've, had an opportunity to be in Japan a bunch of times. I do a lot of work with Mitsubishi Corporation. I've been in Paris, for a couple months at a time. I've traveled throughout Latin America. I've been to Vienna. I've been to all these amazing places that I would have never have thought, the poor kid, would have ever had access to. The guy that wanted to drive the Jeep at the cannery, is instead, having a little glass of champagne on top of the Eiffel Tower, having my moment, thinking, you know what, this is crazy. This is fantasy land. I'm going to wake up from the dream, and I'm Cinderella Man, because at some point, someone's going to tap me on the shoulder. And I feel like this every day. Someone's going to tap me on the shoulder and tell me they made a mistake, and that nothing of this should have happened. Like I would have been in the Matrix. But until that day happens, I keep pushing and pushing and saying, hey, what can I do next year? In terms of networking, one of the most important things that I did early on was, because I wasn't comfortable wherever I was at, I was looking for people around me that had already done it, that had already kind of made that road ahead of me. Most of the time, I was very ambivalent about reaching out to them, mainly because I was worried about whether I was going to be wasting their time, taking up their time. They're very busy people, this and that and the other. And what I've told students is every person of color, every Latino or Latina that's made it, and I say that mainly because this is a Latina community, they've only made it because of other people in their lives. Anybody that thinks that they've done it on their own, illusions of grandeur. I mean, it's, they're kidding themselves. They think too highly of themselves. And more importantly, they're not, paying homage to all those that came before them, that, made the road that they're walking on, or more importantly, that pushed them along from behind or opened the doors in front of them to let them in that next room. So what I tell, students, what I tell young professionals is reach out to those around you that you see that have achieved crazy status in their profession, in the profession that you want to be in, and expect for them to reach back. If they don't, it's on you. Or excuse me, well, it's on the person, the person that doesn't reach back. So, I guess it's on them, so if you reach out to them and they don't reach back, it says nothing about you. It shows that you tried. And it may not be that that person doesn't care. It may be that that person is busy. So don't give up. There's people that I've kept knocking on the door. Finally, they'll open the door and say, you know what? I was tied up. I was in trial. I was doing this. Some of the people that have been the most giving of themselves, there's a close friend of mine, California Supreme Court Justice Carlos Moreno, super rock star on the California Supreme Court. When he was on the court, he was always at every Latino and Latina event out there because he knew what his position represented to the community. He knew that he had gotten to where he was because of the sacrifices of the entire community. And to this day, he's still giving back. I mean, he's been an ambassador to Belize. He nominated at one point to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I called him up because I see it on the ticker banner outside the Fox News studio because I was across the street celebrating a close. I just saw you're being nominated by President Obama.
You know, you froze. So you frozen for everyone else?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, Dino, can you hear us?
There might be some connection issues on his end.
When he comes back in, I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. This is. I don't know whether to do push-ups or whether to like apply to Harvard, but I'm pumped right now. You know, but
Okay,
think about
better?
some questions. Oh yeah, you're
Oh,
back. You're
he's
back.
back.
You're
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, well, I'll take it off video. You guys have seen what I look like.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
this will probably help with the bandwidth. But in terms of networking, LinkedIn is, kind of my lifeline to the world. I use it religiously. I am on LinkedIn multiple times a day. The cautionary point is, nobody wants to see what you ate. Nobody wants to hear about, the life around you. You have to keep it very professional. Nobody wants to hear about your politics. And, it's, yeah.
He's gone again.
Gina, can you hear us? Gino? Microphone check. While we're waiting for him to get back on, you guys have any questions you want to ask?
Just a side note, he looks much younger in his LinkedIn, right? This is him. Less gray.
I can't see. Yeah, that's him. Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think next step is like at least click on him right now, get him in the network while he's fresh up talking to you guys. I think, did he hang up?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring him back on and see if he
Oh, okay.
on.
Thanks.
And you got access to share too, Jen. So, but I'm just kind of, if you want to text them or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see if he needs a link still again, or because he's not coming. It's not coming on.
Oh, he's not coming back on. Oh man.
Let's see.
Let's see. Sent.
Oh, here he comes back on. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, there you are.
Hey guys.
Dino, you had us all doing push-ups and applying to Harvard, and then you left us. We
Oh,
need you
hey,
back, Coach.
well, you know what? And so
Huh.
this is, I guess, a lesson learned. Always have a backup plan. So now I'm on my iPhone. So you never know what.
Plan B.
Yeah, Plan B. Always go to Plan B. Um,
Always go
but
to Plan B.
but the one thing I was mentioning about LinkedIn is be very careful. Just like, I'll tell you who you're with, and that's who you are. Who you're connected with. What postings are being liked by you. Posted by your friends. So it's not Facebook. It's not, and I'm not even on Facebook. It's not your social platforms where everybody wants to hear every thought that you have in your head. For LinkedIn, know that it's you interviewing at every moment that you're on the platform. People are looking at you. People are evaluating you. They're seeing, what you're saying. And on a moment's notice, they'll, unconnect from you. And I'll do that, where I'm hearing somebody ranting and raving about this and that and the other, and they're eating up my bandwidth and my alerts. I'll just delete them from my network, simply because life's too short. I don't want to hear about this and that and the other, and they're not taking it seriously. But it's a great way to find mentors. It's a great way to find people in the community that are doing what you want to do. And most importantly, it's a great way to reach out and get on people's dance cards, on their timeline. So, if they want to, email you back in the middle of the night, they can, and you could start that conversation. And then when there's a mutually agreeable time, you could hopefully get on the phone and get, some of their advice. The other thing too, in terms of, success professionally, is, go to as many professional association meetings as possible. Because what you do need to do is literally become the carbon copy of those that are in that profession. So dress up, and that way they don't see you as a student, as kind of the newbie going in there, because, in a lot of cases, the people that are there for business. The people that are there are sacrificing time away from their families. They're showing up to make business connections. They're trying to find the next client. They're trying to, keep their kids in school. They're trying to pay for their mortgage. A lot of times they're not showing up to find out, how they can better the community, how they could take on a new mentee. And it's almost like a game where you have to get the business card out of their hand before they figure out you're going to be someone that they have to invest time in, which, may not have any immediate return for them. And what I've told students is set up a business card, go to your alma mater or the school that you're in currently, and get the official emblem from your school. Or if you've graduated, get something that looks very businesslike, with a cell phone that you're going to, keep, with an email, that they can keep in contact with. And from a professional standpoint, pull out that card as you're meeting people, shake their hand, hand them a card, because the business customer is going to be that if they have a card with them, they're going to automatically pull out their card. You get their card out of their hand before they start reading yours. And it's psychology. It's using, I guess the unwritten code of business that people do, where they're trading cards. And then the moment that you have that card, when you go home that evening, email, say, it was a pleasure meeting you. I'd love to, find out more about, the journey that got you to where you are in your career. Please let me know if you're available for coffee or a quick call. So make it very easy for them to say yes. And then from there, listen more than you speak, because kind of like today, people like to talk about themselves. It's them thinking, hey, I'm imparting something out into the world, and look for areas of commonality between yourself and them, because the more that you can connect with them, and if they happen to be from your hometown, if they happen to have gone to your school, if they happen to have a similar cultural background, that's the hook. That ends up having that person really want to invest time in you, because they see something of themselves in you. They see a younger version of them that they want to promote to become maybe the next them. And that's, kind of what I try to do every day. So when I'm out there, talking to prospective clients, I have to listen and see what their interests are. Do we have any shared interests? If they're talking about, their kids, everybody's kind of point of pride is always their kids. Find out what their kids are doing, make a connection there. But it's always kind of looking for that common ground with people. And these days, it's become harder and harder, which is why it's more important that when you are on LinkedIn, when you are having conversations, you're not going down certain roads where, hey, 50% chance, they're not going to want to listen to my message, or I'm going to turn them off. So again, it's, looking for those opportunities. When you find those opportunities, do not be shy. Do not sit by the wall and think people are going to walk up to you just because you're a good person. You have to get out of your comfort zone and work the crowd. You have to get every part. And I would actually do it almost like a game. I would show up to conferences and I don't know anyone there. I'm walking into, what I'm seeing is an awkward environment. And I would just walk up to people. Hi, I'm Dino. How you doing? Nice to meet you. And it's almost like you're amping yourself up. It's a game. You're getting yourself hyped up for the game. And I'm forcing myself to reach out, shake their hand, and introduce myself. And some people think, I'm coming, from Mars or whatever, because who's this crazy Latino that's walking all around, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. It's like you're a politician. You're going out there, you're kissing the babies, you're shaking the hands, you're talking to people that don't want to meet you. But after they meet you, they may like you. After they meet you, they may think, you know what? I have something that's easy for me to hand to you, a contact, a little piece of advice, my card that you can call me later on. And that's what you're trying to give them the opportunity to do. The other thing, and this is, an example of somebody that reached out a long time ago. I once showed up to speak to high school and college students. And it was a Saturday. It was going to be 8 a.m. And I was like, I'm not a morning person, but got to get up at 6:30, shower up, drag myself to, Saturday morning event. And, there's going to be coffees and donuts. The donuts got me there. And I'm waiting outside for the building to be opened up. And I meet a student who had driven from Colton. So about 2.5 hours away from LA, who was there that morning. He had no idea who I was, other than I was, a little bit older, but I had my little suit and tie on. So he walks up and he goes, "Oh, hi, you must be one of the speakers." Shakes my hand. So again, breaks that barrier. And I was like, "Oh man, it's early in the morning. It's kind of cold out here." He's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, what time did you have to wake up?" He said, 4:30 in the morning. And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm up here from Colton." And I thought, geez, this guy got up at 4:30 in the morning on a Saturday to come here and knucklehead like me speak. I was blown away. And I was like, I can't believe that. And I'm complaining because I woke up at 6:30 and, drove 45 minutes from my house to show up in downtown LA. From that point on, I had given him a card. He sent me a holiday card every single year. I never saw him again. We spoke on the phone a couple of times, but he would send me a Christmas card every single year for like 8 years. I would have done anything for that person. And he would write a little note or send me an email every now and then. "Hey, Dino, I'm doing this and that and the other. and just kept feeding me information. This is what I'm doing. This is the journey that I'm on. I would have written any recommendation letter. I would have picked up the phone and connected him to anybody on my entire network and put my name behind him, simply because he had always kept in contact. And to me, he had gone above and beyond anything that I would have even thought I would have done. And he never asked for anything. He just wanted to know that I was there every now and then, you know, a bit of, I guess, encouragement, you know, just some advice on what he was doing. But carte blanche, whatever he needed, he had, you know, me right there. So again, it goes to show you, if you keep up with people, even if you're not constantly on the phone with them, even if they don't become your best friend, you will make mentors out there in the world that when you do need that favor, when you do need someone to pick up the phone and you're looking for that new job, they will call someone at a very high level and say, hire him. I've known him, great student, you know, amazing effort. And that will pull you out of the stack from HR, put you on the very top of the stack. I've had a number of occasions where people that I know are looking for jobs. And I'll tell them, hey, you know what? I know the CEO. I know the CFO. I know the general counsel. Send me over your resume. Let me put in a call. And I'll put in a call. And all of a sudden, you know, they're pulled out of the, you know, the herd applying. They're meeting the top person, you know, that's going to make the final decision, and they have the job. And then I've also had people do that for me, you know, which I'm always grateful for, because, you know, the fact that somebody's willing, you know, to put their name behind you says it all. So with that, let's open it up to questions. But, you know, where I started, very different from where I'm at, but I'm always, you know, the kid from San Jose that, you know, feels awkward in a lot of situations. But I never let them see me sweat. When I walk in, you know, I put the, you know, the game face on, and I'm there to play.
Dino, this is incredibly inspiring. I think that though you were missing for a couple minutes there, I think everybody shared the same sentiment. We're super grateful for you to share your wisdom. I really love the last takeaway, right? Build those relationships before you need them, right? Think about the long play, and the authenticity in that, right? Being sincerely interested in somebody versus interesado, right? Like just calling because you need that job. Really putting some attention into those is I want to make sure we're good on time, and we don't keep you too long over your time limit. Dino, do you have time for a couple questions?
I'm more than happy. I'm all yours.
Great. Awesome. Ms. Jimenez has a question about books that have inspired you, or recommendations that you have for us.
Yeah. So, well, one of the dirty little secrets is I think I have dyslexia, because it's incredibly difficult for me to read sometimes, even though I'm a lawyer. But then, you know, my negotiation trick is I read things over and over and over again, and literally try to memorize the contract. So then when I'm trying to access information, you know, I have it, you know, hopefully all at my fingertips. But at least in terms of, you know, my professional life, you know, there's a couple of books by Jeffrey Fox, Jeffrey with a J, and the person that, you know, inspired me, a guy by the name of Ed Fio that I worked with for 10 years, and he was the reason I went to my first law firm. When I asked him, you know, what the secret to his success was, and I was waiting for that, you know, that little mantra, little nugget of wisdom, he told me to read these books. And I didn't right away. I waited till years later, till I was a partner. I was responsible for, you know, keeping people fed, bringing in, you know, work into the firm. And the books that he had recommended me reading, that then I started handing out to everybody on my team, was How to Become a Rainmaker and How to Become a CEO. And then there's another, you know, book in that series, How to Become a Superstar Rainmaker. You know, you could buy the hard copy, you could, you know, buy the CD, or, you know, download it onto your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you have. for Samsung. It's out there. But they're little tips, in terms of how to approach people, how to ask for the work, basically asking a question, because it's one thing where you meet someone and you hit it off and this and that and the other, and you never ask for what you want from that person, how they can help you. So it's a great meeting, everybody goes away happy, but it never met the goal of the meeting. And also little things. If you have a lunch meeting, it's not about the food. The last thing that the meeting is about the food, so don't go to that one restaurant that everybody's trying to get into and this and that. And, it all is about the menu, and all that. Menu's irrelevant. The food that you're eating is irrelevant. It's all about the person sitting across the table from you. And even simple things like, eat something that's not going to make a mess. So don't order the spaghetti just because you like spaghetti, and all of a sudden it gets on your shirt, on your blouse, on your tie, or whatever. And then your only focus is that little spot, as opposed to the person across the table from you. Don't be the super picky eater, hey, I want this on the side and this a little bit more cooked and all that, because you're going to put off the person across the table from you. So little common sense things like that are in these books, and they literally, and I would listen to them again and again and again to try to burn them in my psyche. But they've helped me a lot in my business life. Even something like, if you're going to go to your holiday party, make it quick. Open bars, fraught with problems. And I always thought, hey, that's the best time, because then you're meeting, all the muckety mucks, and everybody's going to be there, but because it's an open bar, a lot of times, worst environment you could ever be in. And something like that you wouldn't think of until you have that problem.
Dino, I think I know our next conversation and our next fireside chat is going to be about the unwritten rules of business. It's a lot of things that nobody ever teaches you, that you have obviously picked up through the years, through good books and experience, right? That I think would save us all, would have saved me a lot of time had I known them. With that, one more question, and then we're going to go into the LinkedIn boot camp about branding and building your profile in 3 steps.
I do.
Anyone?
Oh, go, Mara.
Go for it. Go for it.
So what is international law? What is your work, the work that you do now? What does that look like? And how do you, I don't know, I mean, you spoke about it, like, how do you get away from that, like, being afraid of not doing it? I currently applied to, 2 years ago, I applied to Santa Clara, and I didn't get in. I was the wait list. That's the only school I applied to, and I'm just like, maybe that's not the school. Maybe I should apply to McGeorge now, or, and I'm like in between right now, and just hearing your story makes me very happy that you went for that Harvard Law School. And so, it's motivating, and it's enlightening, and it's making me want to like push, for that school that I want to go to. And, so what is your life now? And thank you for speaking. And just a lot of thoughts. Maybe we should be in contact.
Yeah, no, in fact, that's a great question. Well, in terms of how I got into international law, again, I didn't know any lawyers. I started off as a banking associate. I never even really balanced my checkbook, and I had zero finance background. But NAFTA passed the year before I graduated, so 1992, NAFTA passes, which makes me now feeling old. I show up at my law firm, and they see this. See the brown face? They probably hear me speaking Spanish to my mom on the phone, and somebody walks into my office saying, "Hey, do you know anything about NAFTA?" I didn't know anything about NAFTA other than it passed, and that was that. I had done like a small research paper at a for a firm over the summer. The correct answer was, "Sure. What do you want to know?" And then I go run and try to figure it out. But as Latino and Latinas, the one thing that we do have is our culture, and in some cases our language skills. And I never thought that they were ever going to serve me professionally. I maintained my language skills because of my mom. I maintained my language skills because of my community. My grandparents, my aunts and uncles all spoke Spanish. My mom, she only spoke Spanish. And I had, ocho Spanish. So it wasn't, professional. I'd never formally learned it other than, in high school. I was in honors class because I never learned to read and write it growing up. And I'm now in a professional environment where it's an asset. I'm now in an environment where it makes me that much more valuable. So whether you're in law or whether you're in business or medicine, your language skills, your cultural skills take you to another level. They make you invaluable to that organization. So what I ended up doing with this NAFTA question is like, sure, what do you need me to do? When there was a project in Mexico, well, who do they go to? The Mexican American. I show up. That one project made my entire career because it was the very first project of its type ever done in Mexico. From that, I get another assignment. From that, I get another assignment. From that, I get another assignment. When you look at my deal list, there are tons of Mexico projects. There's tons of projects in Colombia, in Argentina, Chile, all over Central America. I ran and I embraced what I thought, I would, just have for myself, my culture, my language. I made a career out of it. So in terms of, what is international law? For me, it's doing the same transactions that one would do in the United States, mergers and acquisitions, finance, doing contracts, but in an international setting. So it's made me more valuable as an attorney. I've made a career out of it, but I know business people that get tapped, Facebook, Google, all these other, big shops, because all those companies want to break into Latin America. They need to put together, the rock star team, and all of us in the community are that rock star team that these companies need. If you want to be a doctor and you have the language skills, it just opened up your hospital, your clinic to another community that they would have a very difficult time accessing. So, the one thing that's very important that I think a lot of us don't fully appreciate is that may be your most valuable asset that sometimes you try to hide because you're trying to fit in. And I run towards it. At the same time, I'm doing that because I don't want people to put me in the Latino box and, hey, here's a Latino issue, that's work in Latin America. So Dino only does that work in Latin America. So I do a lot of work in the United States to kind of balance it out. So that way I'm just as active on deals in the US as I am internationally. But, it's another dimension that you could bring to the table. I was just with a client last night from Mitsubishi. And one of the things he was mentioning is, man, if we only had people with language skills. I went through my mental Rolodex and I was like, I have the perfect guy for you. He's Anglo, but he speaks perfect Japanese, lived in Japan. I'm going to call him today because I thought, you know what? Here's an opportunity. It's the language skills. It's the cultural skills. You can't learn them overnight. In some cases, you come up, and when we're talking about, the business culture, all these cultures, when I show up in Latin America, it's a very different setting than the unspoken U.S. business rules. There, they want to know your background. Everyone's like, where's your family from? What part of Mexico? And they're trying to size me up almost. And when I tell them, well, most of my family's in Tamaulipas, and, we're poorer than poor. So I'm not one of the, coming from one of the elite, families in Mexico City that kind of run the show. My mother raised me, working in the fields. My mother raised me in the canneries. But let me tell you what I have done. I've gone to Harvard Law School. I've closed this deal. I've gotten this award. So you figure out what it is that they're really asking you, and what it is that they're really asking you is, are you at our level when I show up to their table? Just like in the United States,
I once had someone ask me, "Hey, so what do you do here?" And I'm in a little suit and tie. I'm like, "I'm a lawyer." And they're like, "You're a lawyer?" And it's the signals that you're giving off, how they see you interacting, because I was trying to be very service oriented and asked the guy, "Can I get you some coffee?" Why? Because I was getting myself some coffee, and I just thought, hey, it's the polite thing to do, asking if I want some coffee. Well, he took it the wrong way, but it was just, something to, to be aware of. But again, those skill sets that we have that we didn't think we could utilize actually take us to the next level and apply to every law school. That's the other thing. The last thing you could do is put yourself in a small box and think that that's the only option. If you apply to a number of law schools, just like a number of business schools, a number of medical schools, you're simply opening up your opportunities. And then it's also about how you present yourself. If they have, and the way that it was told to me, when I was applying to law school, is the people on the admissions are the king and queen makers. They have the little golden, Lord of the Rings gold, or ring that everybody wants, and they're making kings and queens depending on who they decide to bestow it on. You have to build a case for yourself because you are competing with everybody else with a very similar story. Just like I found out, when I showed up at Harvard Law School, I wasn't a unicorn. Everybody was a unicorn that looked like me because we all had similar stories, similar backgrounds. Everybody had different journeys, but pretty similar in terms of, the characteristics. But you have to, compete with that in your community, that, we're all different, but we're all the same. And what makes you unique to deserve that golden ring? And you have to, reach out to your mentors, not be self-effacing, not, be humble. The last thing you want to do when you're writing a personal statement, the last thing you want to do when you're showing up for a job interview is be self-effacing, be too humble, right? You don't want to, hey, I created water and air was my idea and this and that and the other, but you have to give yourself your due. You have to recognize how you've overcome challenges and speak about those as your strength, because as people are interacting with you, they're hearing about the challenges and they think, you know what? That's amazing. When I talk to somebody that's been in the military and I look and see, hey, they served in Afghanistan, I think, and if you had people shooting at you, going into a law firm is nothing. That's courage under fire. I mean, that's strength. When I talk to somebody that I, hear their parents were farm workers, their parents were janitors, their parents did this and that and the other, all I think is, you know what? That person is made of steel. That person will appreciate the opportunity given to him or her and take it to the next level. All they need is the chance. And that's, part of the reason that I'm here, because, I know each and every one of us, all we need is that chance. You give us a little education, you give us some opportunity, we'll crush it. We'll take it next level and turn right back around and say, you know what? There's 1,000 more just like me.
Wow.
Dino, thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow.
And I just want to confirm and make sure it's okay with you if this group, the people on this call and the listeners of this would be okay to connect with you on LinkedIn, and if there's a connection or request there, you're open to that.
And just reference
Awesome.
that it's this group, and I'll definitely accept.
That's amazing. Awesome. With that and that introduction, we're going to take some of those learnings and put into practice a quick boot camp to refresh some of our skills and roll up our sleeves and get to work on our own LinkedIn profiles. So Dino, you're welcome to join, but you're off the hook. It sounds like you already figured it out.
No, thank you so much. Hey, well, I'm glad to be a resource.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dino.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you all soon.
Very much.
Thank you so much.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.
Abrazo.
Gracias.
Take care.
Abrazo. Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Okay, guys, I know we're